Welcome back, Fantasy Endgame fam. Fantasy Endgame baseball players wrapping up another week, inching closer and closer to your fantasy playoffs. So it's very important that you're winning those matchups or improving in those categories, and especially pitching. So as we do on Sunday, we're going to talk about 2-start streamers for the week ahead. One of my favorite things about fantasy baseball, 2-start streamers. And let's start with a guy out there in almost every single league. Got a massive upgrade at the trade deadline, going from the A's to the Mets. Paul Blackburn. Not only did he get that massive upgrade going to, not one of the best teams, but a team that's at least competitive and has a decent offense. But you look at his last 2 starts. 6 innings pitched, each. 1 earned run, each. 6 strikeouts, each. Now, you could say it was the Angels and the Rockies, and you're right. But this week, he gets his old team, Oakland, revenge game, and the Miami Marlins. So, must add 2-star streamer this week?
I think so. The Mets are not my favorite team. No secret there. And Paul Blackburn's not my favorite pitcher for fantasy, but he's my favorite streamer this week because it seems like a no-brainer here. He's been really solid in his 2 games since going to New York. And he has 2 amazing matchups, really. And poor Oakland. I mean, come on. To the A's, is it really a revenge game for anybody against the A's? It's just like a sympathy. It's like a pity game. Anything. It's like feel bad striking those guys out. But no. You got to roll with Blackburn. He's still available in long leagues. And he's somebody who we've seen for 2 straight years do the exact same thing. Come out the gate on fire. Just way overachieving like April and May, and then taper off, get hit hard, get injured, and then come back late in the season. It's like almost like a broken record at this point. And he's now coming back strong, but hey, he gets to pitch for a team where he could have a better chance to win. But again, since going to the Mets, and again, more importantly, since coming off the IL, not being hurt, it's been really good. Those 2 earned runs in 2 starts, but also this is not a pitcher who gets you a lot of strikeouts typically, and that's why I don't usually buy into him unless it's a strong schedule for fantasy. But he's so far in the National League, 12 Ks in 12 innings. He can get you by there. So, yeah, Blackburn, to me, again, this is someone who's definition of a streamer. This is not a player you ever really hit your wagon to, but he's got the perfect setup. Like everything falls in line perfectly for him this week.
All right, then what about another pitcher who is still on the same team that he started the season with? That is Charlie Morton of the Braves. He's seen his rostership drop by 5% because in his last start against the Brewers, it didn't go so well. 2 2/3 innings, gave up 8 runs, now putting his ERA at 4.47. But Charlie Morton gets the Giants in San Francisco, which the Giants lineup, it could be hit or miss, but certainly shouldn't scare you. And then the Angels, which definitely shouldn't scare you. So you feel better about Morton than Blackburn, or same or less?
It's weird to hear Charlie Morton. I mean, this is definitely the first time he's been considered streamer. But like you said, he's been dropped because he's been bad. And so now his ownership rate has dropped to that threshold. I got to at least throw him out there because in some leagues, like competitive leagues, people aren't just going to hold on because of name value. They aren't just going to hold on because he's been okay most of the season. And then now after this last start, he's been dropped. I know he's been dropped in a lot of leagues. I've seen it in some of my leagues. And look, I'm not going to pretend there's no risk here. Not just because his last start was horrible, but overall, his numbers in the season aren't good. I mean, he really hasn't helped you very much. 4.47 ERA, and then that WHIP is actually worse, 1.31, relatively speaking. But this is kind of what he's done the last 2 years, right? His ERA has been about this the last couple of seasons. His WHIP was actually even worse last year. But it's still Uncle Charlie. He's still got it in him, I think, to get you some quality starts if he's on. So I'm going to trust him this week if he's available. I don't know that I really want him in my rotation the rest of the season, just to be honest. But yeah, this week, like you said, the Giants and then the Angels. Angels have now gotten to that must stream against territory for the most part. not many Braves pitchers that you would actually want that you can pick up to go against the Angels, but Charlie Morton could be one. So I'll still prefer Blackburn, but yeah, if Morton's out there, I think this week I would give him a chance.
All right, now another guy, a little less than 60% rostered on Yahoo, Ben Lively, still of the Cleveland Guardians. He's been a bit of a mixed bag this year. He's got 110 innings pitched, only 92 strikeouts, decent ratios, 3.59, 1.17, but only 7 quality starts. So, and then he gets, I would say he gets a bit of a tougher matchup or schedule this week. Chicago Cubs, again, another team I feel like you're not scared to stream against them, but you know that there's always a chance. And then the Brewers can definitely put up some runs if they're on that day. So you feeling good or risky about Lively this week?
Yeah, I mean, not gonna lie, there's a lot of risk in all these pitchers this week. It feels like we're at that stage of the season where for a lot of these pitchers, you think you know what you're gonna get, but that's why they're available. That's why they're streamers, because we don't know ever what we're gonna get with these pitchers. All the pitchers that have been good enough to get over that hump of not being called streamers, they're already rostered somewhere. And so there's always risk with all of these players. With Lively, hasn't been as good lately as he was in the beginning of the season, where he was a really solid streamer. In fact, his ownership was up at one point over 70%. It's dropped now because of those inconsistencies. But look, the Cubs and the Brewers not lighting it up on offense most of the time. Of course, the Brewers been talking about this. Not the same offense, not only without Yelich, but also some of their players have gone downhill big time in the last month. Guys like Bryce Terang, William Contreras, etc. So Lively, I don't really want him in a quality starts league because he hasn't gone 6 innings too often, especially as of late. And again, don't expect a lot of strikeouts. He hasn't at all this season been a guy who's getting you a lot of strikeouts because he just doesn't generate whiffs. But he can definitely get you some wins because 10-7 record on a good team that hasn't been as good lately, but Cleveland is still a good situation there. So because of the schedule, I'll still put him up there as a pretty strong 2-start streamer.
All right, now the guy who's seen his rostership go way up from 5% to 18%, Tyler Mahle. Is that how you pronounce his name? Tyler Mahle. You talked about him on the waiver wire video. Had his first start against Houston, went 5 innings, gave up 1 run. What he gave up here, 5 hits and a walk. Only struck out 2, but this is a guy coming back from Tommy John through 76 pitches, 49 strikes. Doesn't have the best schedule this week. Has to go into Fenway and then versus the Twins, another team that can be hot, can be cold. So probably a guy I think you don't mind adding just for the long term. But are you also rolling them out this week in both starts as well?
That's exactly it. If I had to close my eyes and pick one of these players, I would want rest of season. I would say it's Mahle, but not my favorite this week because of the schedule. Blackburn's schedule's just significantly better. So is Morton and then Lively. But I do like Mahle. I was pleasantly surprised. I really wasn't, expecting a whole lot from him coming off IL, not just because he's coming off IL long-term, but because I just didn't know if he was the same pitcher from a couple years ago. Pleasantly surprised. He pitched a little bit longer than I thought he would in his first start, and he wasn't too bad. So I'm very hesitant to just throw him in my lineup this week at Boston. Very tough ask there, that park. And then Minnesota, like you said, they can put up runs in bunches at times. But look, if you need somebody, at least I would say it's not like there's a lot less risk with guys I already talked about, like Ben Lively, Charlie Morton, the way they pitch. So, maybe just go with a guy you feel like might be the strongest option the rest of the way.
All right, there you go. And now a guy who has been a roller coaster this season, and especially here since the All-Star break, Andrew Abbott of the Cardinals had a nice start to the season, has been kind of up and down, has been very down since the All-Star break. I mean, he did have, his first start after All-Star break was pretty good, 6 2/3, didn't give up a run. But his last 3 starts hasn't gone over 5 innings, has basically been rocked in all of them, has a 5.4 ERA and a 1.80 whip since the All-Star break. He does get St. Louis. I said Andrew Abbott of the Cardinals. I meant the Reds. Sorry. He gets the Cardinals this week, which is great. Stream against Cardinals. But then he gets KC, another team I feel like it's one of those teams. They could be cold that day or they could be hot. So Andrew Abbott, how risky on the risky scale?
Yeah. Just as risky as most of the other players we've talked about, except to add one to the scale. That's why he's lower on this list. This is where we get to now. None of these are available, so we're going to have to really, stretch a reach for somebody. It's Abbott, and really it's because his schedule isn't too bad. He's got two teams that strike out a fair amount. KC is definitely going to be a risky start, and I actually don't like that both his starts are at home because Cincinnati home park is not a great place for pitchers. So this is really like just putting your trust in a pitcher who has talent and has flashed at times, just not lately. But I don't look forward necessarily to streaming Andrew Abbott this week, but if you can't get any of those others, then you can give him a shot. And I will say I only have him above the next player just because he can get you a little bit more strikeout upside.
Speaking of that next player, it is Colin Ray of the Milwaukee Brewers. He's had a pretty decent season, 122 innings, 99 strikeouts. Okay, not a very high strikeout total, but 3.38 ERA, 1.18 whip, 7 quality starts. But he does not have the best of schedules this week. First of all, he's got to face the Dodgers. That's never fun. And then the Guardians, again, not one of the best offenses, but certainly far from the worst. So are we just in streaming desperation territory here?
Pretty much. And Colin Ray has really been solid most of the year. I mean, he never gets lit up like some of these other pitchers have, but the limitations and the reason why I have him at the bottom of the list here is because only 19% strikeout rate, not that great. And the schedule, of course, getting the Dodgers. Now the Dodgers do have Mookie back. Freddie Freeman is there. So obviously not ideal, but only reason I'm keeping him on this list is because Cleveland has been pretty cold at the plate lately. So overall, doesn't seem like a good matchup on paper, but right now seems like it's not a bad spot to trust him. And even though his expected numbers are actually really bad, Ray just seems to be one of those crafty veterans who somehow finds a way to get it done. So again, we're looking really for floor here, and you don't want to take on the risk of someone who could get lit up like Andrew Abbott. Then even in the face of a tougher schedule, Ray is still an option.
All right. Now it's time to find out how much does schedule matter. Tejan Walker has a great schedule this week. Tejan, I don't know how you pronounce it. Taiwan Walker. A great schedule this week. Gets your Marlins, gets the Nationals. Not much better than that. But coming off IL, coming off the 15-day IL, slated to start on Tuesday. That's risky. 5.60 ERA, 1.49 whip this year. So, you gambling?
NL only, 15-teamer, super desperate. Hey, you could do worse. There are plenty of other streamers I didn't mention, so he's not the worst option. At least he's been there, done that. This isn't like a name recognition thing. Like, oh yeah, I remember he was good a few years ago. This is the schedule, but also, I felt like this, and I looked back, and it's like I feel like early in the season before he got hurt, there was a stretch where he was solid, and I look back, and I guess I was misremembering, and he really wasn't that great. There was a brief stretch where he put together a couple of starts that were like solid. He's not the same guy anymore, but look, he's better than like Kai Bush of the White Sox or like Davis Daniel of the Angels. I would go to Walker because at least he's in Philadelphia. Good chance to maybe earn you a win. So, yeah, desperation only though.
All right, there you go. There's our top 2-start streamers for the week. Of course, if you have questions about other 2-start streamers or anybody else, hitters, pitchers, that's what we are here for. But first, let me remind you once again, Underdog Fantasy still chugging along with the MLB picks. You can see tonight we got Seattle versus the Mets. So if you want to get your pick'ems in, there's still time. You got about 40 minutes here till the game time. And of course, there are fantasy football drafts going on all the time. They've added some new ones here. If you're starting to get into fantasy, they added the German Shepherd, the Golden but Super Flex. You see the German Shepherd, only a $5 entry. So check out Underdog Fantasy. If you haven't yet already, make sure if you're signing up for the first time, you join using promo code ENDGAME, because not only is that going to get you a free special pick'em that you can use right away, it's also going to get you up to $250 in bonus cash that you can also use right away to do drafts, do pick'ems, whatever you feel like doing. It's a ton of fun. And of course, they're going to have pick'ems the rest of the baseball season, all throughout the NFL season, and really for every sport imaginable, and even like esports and stuff. So if you haven't checked out Underdog yet, go check it out. A ton of fun. All right, let's get to your questions. And as always, we're going to answer as many as we can. Speaking of Underdog Fantasy, we do have a best ball draft we need to get to after this. So we will do the best we can to get through as many questions as we can. If you are impatient, you don't want to wait, you want to jump to the front of the line, you can always drop that super chat. Or if you just want to say thank you, or you're just feeling generous, you can drop that super chat. Not a necessity, but an option for you if you want to get your question answered right away. All right, let's start with Harry, who was here over 2 hours ago with this question. 2 hours ago. Harry, hopefully you're still on. You usually are. He needs closer help, as do a lot of people. He's got Sewald and Duvall. Picked up Ben Joyce. So, rank these guys on the waiver: Walker, Martinez, Urseg, Vodnik, Fosher. Rank them.
Man, the struggle is real. Chris, this reinforces your theory of just punting saves. Yeah.
Punt them.
Just punt it. Remember all season, all draft season, I was all in on Camilo Doval because he was the quote-unquote safest closer out there. And he was really safe until 2 days ago he got optioned, which, look, that still surprised me. He hasn't been great this year, but there's some other closers who have been worse. But whatever. I don't know. I still am kind of confused with the Giants, where they don't seem to really know what they're doing. It's like they're just trying things and see what happens. But they're not trying to Duvall anymore at closer, obviously. Ryan Walker looks like the guy. Ryan Walker has been really good, although he's been used in different fashions. You know, last year he was an opener a lot. He's been a middle reliever, but he did get the save the other day. He's been solid. I don't see anybody else who's an immediate threat. I think Walker's your number one choice. Obviously, it makes sense because you had Duvall anyways. Number two on that list, and this says more about the other guys than about him, is I guess I would go Vodnik number two, just because he seems to be pretty entrenched for now in that role. So I think I would go with Vodnik. I'll just tell you right now, I will put Foucher last because I don't trust any of the Marlins closers / relievers or options, much less Foucher. So I'm going to put him last. You know, you figure someone will get saves there, but they don't really seem set on having a guy, and I don't really have confidence in any one of them in particular. Anyways, so I'll go Walker first, Foucher's last. I'll go Walker, Vodnik, probably Martinez, then Urseg, and then Foucher. Because Martinez, I don't really have a great amount of confidence that he's going to get many saves because, I mean, let's face it, they have a lot of options. They have Puck, who should and could still get saves. Obviously, Sewald is still there. It's not like he's hurt. So that's the way I'm going to roll. I think Walker should be your first option. Vodnik, then Martinez.
All right, there you go. Good luck. Hopefully whoever you pick up actually remains the closer rest of the season and actually gets saves. All right, Doopy guy. Current pitching rotation is Kirby King, Imanaga, Peralta, Keller, Bryce Miller, Robbie Ray, Nick Pivetta, and Nestor Cortez. So if you could add one of these guys, who's it going to be? Jake Irvin, Cutter Crawford, or Andrew Abbott?
Well, Abbott, one of our streaming options. I think we need to keep it that way. I don't even love him as a streamer this week necessarily. He's just one of the better options as far as schedules this week. So I would say it's between Irvin and Crawford. I'm going to go with Crawford. I know he hasn't been nearly the same guy, but I mean, between those two, Crawford's the one. I think he has the best stuff. He's in the best situation. He can still get you strikeouts on a pretty consistent basis. So that's who I would go with right now. You've got a pretty good rotation as it is. I know you don't have one guy who really stands head and shoulders above as like, screaming ace. But you also have got some risk there. Let's face it, Nestor has not been that great this year. Pivetta is up and down. I would hold on to Pivetta for sure. So you're pretty solid overall. If you're going to add between there, to me, I'm still going Crawford.
All right. Thank you for that. Go get Crawford. Jahoni, what's up? Any playoff team pitchers on the IL that you'd be looking to add for the rest of the season?
Playoff team pitchers, you're talking about pitchers on current playoff teams that might come back, like a Jacob deGrom type. Is that what you're talking about? I mean,
Probably.
Rangers are.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Like I said, I don't think Rangers are playoff bound, but yeah, somebody who could potentially come back and make an impact. I'll just say this off the top. It's very risky at this stage of the season. You have somebody who's on IL. I know I talked to Tyler Mahle and pitchers coming back from IL can be helpful, right? But at this stage of the season, especially with looking playoffs, you're taking risk there. You're definitely taking some risk. So it really depends on the situation. Even a guy like deGrom, as talented as he is, how many innings is he really going to get you, or how many innings is he going to go? I don't want to actively seek out injured pitchers if I don't have to. In other words, so my risk aversion is definitely going to increase. And think about some of these pitchers that we've seen come back, and people were so happy to stash them and waiting for them to come back just to drop them a week later, 2 weeks later. Jeffrey Springs, in fact, somebody I think mentioned in the chat here, they're ready to move on, and I am too. I dropped him in at least one league because we were waiting, and he came back, and guess what? He doesn't look like the same pitcher coming off IL, missing an entire year. So it's just a really risky proposition there. It's only if there's a player that you really feel is worth it. And even a guy like Max Scherzer, Hall of Famer, and what happens is he wasn't bad necessarily coming off IL, but he got hurt again, right? He's got shoulder fatigue, whatever it is. So there's not a lot. There's not a lot of pitchers I would really even trust coming off the IL that I would say I'm just going to, throw them in my lineup, especially as pitchers go.
Sorry, I'm muted. All right. Tyler Durden, not a question, just wants to say thank you for all the advice. His playoffs start tomorrow, and he's the #1 seed. Good luck to you, Tyler. All right, Cerulean Dog, here we go. Our Luis Robert Jr. question. After 3 straight 0 for 4, 0 for 5, 0 for 5 games, Luis Roberts Jr. batting average is all the way up to 198, below the 200 line. Are you dropping him yet?
I'm not.
Daryl also debating dropping him.
Yeah, well, I can answer this now because I have Luis Robert Jr. I may have made a mistake. I bought low on him. At least I thought I was buying low, and what I bought was a low-performing player. I'm gonna have to hold on, not because I'm gonna fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy, but because he can still steal you bases and hit home runs. As bad as he's been, if it's not something that's physically restricting him, like if there's something bothering him, if it's just that he's just in a funk, or he just realized he's still with the White Sox, and I get it, that's depressing. I always want to stash in hope of upside, and this is why even a player like Noelvi Marte, right? It's like you got to hold on, because what if he turns the corner? I can't see you have to hold him. I would really prefer to keep him on the bench and not just straight up drop. But if there's a need for you, like you just can't afford that bench stash, you can drop him.
All right, so there you go. If you need it, you can drop him. What about Matthew Boyd of the Detroit Tigers? Set to start on Tuesday. Oh, no, sorry, he's on the Guardians now. Set to start on Tuesday against the Cubs. He said he's been impressive in his minor league rehab assignment, but he's 33 years old, coming off of Tommy John. Are you adding him?
No, I'm not. And this is a great follow-up. I even wonder now, like Jahoni's question, is there any, playoff team guys on the IL coming back? Was it like, were you asking about Boyd without asking about Boyd? Nah, this is a player more than anybody else continues to, pull the rug from under us in fantasy. He just, when he starts to look like you can trust him, that he kills you. And then he's been hurt. Like, no, I'm not doing it with Boyd.
All right. Not doing it with Boyd. What about this? Are you dropping Jason Dominguez for Spencer Arrighetti? Kevin wants to know.
Well, hey, if you picked up Arrighetti before his last start, you're glad. Remember, he was on the waiver wire video just a couple days ago, and his last start, what was it? 13 strikeouts, I think. Yeah, I'm buying into Arrighetti. I think you should pick him up, and that's why I mentioned him last week. But as far as Dominguez, I don't think that you need to hold him, because I really don't think now we're seeing him until September. Now, of course, things happen, right? Things change, but the amount of time he's missed, I don't expect that he's going to help your team immediately, and he may not help your team at all in fantasy. So absolutely, I'm going to get a starting pitcher who I can put in there and gets me Ks, gets me potentially even wins now. And, I know is going to be out there every fifth day. So, yeah, I'm definitely doing this.
Spencer Arrighetti, 33 strikeouts over the last 3 games, and gets the White Sox this week. Probably want to pick him up. Pick him up.
Well, I talked him on it before his last start.
All right, back-to-back Nate. What is up? His trade deadline is tomorrow. He's been out without Christian Walker for a few weeks. Are you trading for another first baseman, or can David Fry hold down the fort until Walker gets back?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, this is tricky because, first of all, talking about Walker, you may be without him at least a couple more weeks, not longer. It's tricky because it's an oblique. Not just that he'll be out longer than a couple weeks, but also don't know how he'll bounce back. It always tells you something when a team, Diamondbacks, felt like they had to go out and get another first baseman, which they did with Josh Bell. Josh Bell has been on fire. So an easy solution might be to just pick up Josh Bell if he's still out there. But of course, if you can't do that, or if you didn't want to do that, maybe that's why you're asking. I'd definitely rather have an upgrade for David Fry. David Fry had his time in the spotlight. That time's over. I don't think I can just tell you just to trust and wait on Walker, because you might be waiting until September and then it might be too late. So I don't want to just roll with Fry. I don't want to just hold my breath and hope Walker comes back soon. So I would try to trade for a first baseman, but again, don't trade out of desperation. Only deal, from a position of strength where it doesn't cost you somewhere, and only buy if you can afford, the price not ridiculous. You don't need, a high end, one of the top first basemen in the game, right? You just need somebody who's trustworthy, someone who can get you by. And this is also a good kind of transition back to what we just talked about with Spencer Arrighetti. If you look at the season stats, you think this guy's a bum, right? Why would I pick up this guy? Forget the season stats. Look at the last 30-day stats and then tell me what you notice, okay? So don't look at how first basemen are ranked according to Yahoo or ESPN. Forget it. It is a long season. How have they done since the All-Star break? Let's just look at the second season, as we call it, right? Jake Berger would be an all-star if we just make a team based on the second half of the season, right? If you can get a guy like that, which is too late for him, now you're buying high on Jake Berger. But if you can get somebody like that where you could buy low before they go off, or somebody who's a discount, then I would do that.
All right, there you go, Nate. Good luck. All right, CB420 Brown. I sadly just parted ways with Max Mayer for Paul Blackburn to stream this week. What are we doing about Max Mayer? He has not looked like the same guy we saw earlier in the year before they demoted him for no reason. He's been okay, but not great. What are we doing with Max Mayer?
Yeah, I think it's time to just say better luck next year. Does not look like the same guy, like you said. Obviously, Marlins screwing with his innings and bouncing him down to the minors. I think it's really a confidence thing. It's just, they were limiting him so much. They were babying him, and now he's pitching like he's not a big leaguer. So I guess that's what happens, right? He's not able to go as deep into games effectively because he got used to going like 4 or 5 innings. And so once you get to like the 5th, 6th inning against the major leaguers, when you're used to going only 4 or 5 against AAA, yeah, it's not going to be the same thing. So you can drop Mayer.
Yeah, sadly.
Meyer.
Doesn't matter. What was it? Office Space. Doesn't matter. Not going to work. Not going to be working here on Monday or whatever. Doesn't matter. Not going to be on my fantasy team on Monday.
There you
go. Back to back. Nate saying he doesn't have an NA spot. So without an NA spot, are you holding Duvall after being sent down, or are you just dropping him?
I mean, I do feel like he will come back at some point, but it doesn't mean he'll be the closer again. They did this. They didn't do this just to send a message, right? This is going to be at least a couple of weeks before he even has a chance to get that job back. I think you can drop him because if there is no NA spot in your league, who's running out to pick him up? And is that a big loss? So I would only hold on to him if. No, actually, I wouldn't. No, just drop him. Like, why would you? You might as well use that bench spot on a player who can help you, right? So, no, you don't have to.
If your league doesn't have any spots, I'm sure nobody's picking them up. All right, Jahoni with another one. Somebody dropped Hunter Brown on Thursday, and he put a claim in for him, dropped Crochet to get Hunter Brown, thought it was time to move on, or would you have just kept Crochet? What do you think?
No, it's time. Like I talked about Crochet last couple of weeks. The panic meter was, what did I put it at? Maybe an 8. Yeah. Let's just drop him. Let's just put it to 10. Forget it. You don't have to keep Crochet. It's the same thing, just like with Meyer, as far as beginning of the year, end of year, that just something changed, right? We know what changed was Crochet. He's still a White Sox because nothing changed in his uniform. And he got used to pitching 3 innings. And now he's not used to being good late in games. And it's over. I think it's over. I don't know why somebody would drop Hunter Brown, take advantage, pick him up.
Yep, definitely pick him up. All right, Kevin Thomas again. What's up, Kevin? Saying Bassett killed my week in ERA and whip this week. Feels droppable. How about going against the Orioles, going 7 innings, only giving up 2 earned runs, striking out 9. Then facing the Athletics, only going 4 innings, giving up 7 earned runs. Well, what? Those stat lines should have been flipped. Anyways, Chris Bassett, is he worth, like, you holding him, or are you like, I'll drop him, and if I need to pick him up later, I'll grab him?
Yeah, I can drop him. I mean, he's been bad all July. He wasn't really good. He's still in Toronto. He's kind of no, that's not fair. I was going to say he's kind of Paul Blackburn-esque to me. Doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. Like, he can eat innings, and sometimes he looks good, and then sometimes he kills you. I was going to say he's like a poor man's Paul Blackburn, but maybe they're just kind of like the same guy, like Spider-Man Moon. No, he's droppable.
All right, go ahead and drop him. All right, Logan saying, I know we already had the Robert Jr. question, but my outfielding utility is Lane Thomas, Adolis Garcia, Robert Jr., Juan Soto, Jake Berger, Luis Garcia. So who's getting cut for Riley Green when he comes back?
Ouch. Yeah, you got some underachievers. A lot of talent there in that outfield, but it doesn't feel really good to have those first three in your outfield. So obviously you're keeping Berger. I mean, no question, he's your DH there. Lane Thomas is just, again, did not enjoy, or at least Cleveland has not enjoyed having him so far, but you got to hold him. Garcia, I still don't want to drop necessarily. I would rather drop either Robert or Garcia. Like if Garcia is not making your starting lineup because you're putting Berger at DH and keeping those other guys, I think you can drop Garcia. He's been solid, right? He's fine. He's playable, but I don't think you need to hold him just to throw in your utility spot. So I think Garcia is the drop in this case because, again, I'd rather stash and bench Robert than to cut him if possible.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Logan. Back to back, Nate. How you feeling about Joe Musgrove coming back from IL?
Feeling like I don't want to invest much thought into him. I don't want to invest a roster spot. This is exactly what I talked about. One of those players coming off IL, you know, no, I'm not doing it. Hadn't had a good season at all. Too many injuries. It just doesn't seem to be in play. I'm not taking on this risk. So another example of one of these veteran starting pitchers. He's getting by on name value at this point. That's it.
All right, not doing it. Victor Villegas, what's up, Victor? What kind of starting pitcher would you be looking for in return for Lane Thomas?
Well, you're gonna have to lower the bar now because Lane Thomas, like we keep saying, it's not been good since going to Cleveland, and that's really an understatement. I mean, it's been just horrible. It's not a good time. It's definitely not a good time to try to offer Lane Thomas to somebody. So I'm not sure if I would try it yet. I mean, obviously you never know what somebody's willing to do. Maybe somebody feels like I'm going to buy low. And so it doesn't hurt to try, but you're going to have to set your sights much lower. Don't, insult somebody by asking for an ace and don't hurt yourself by trying to buy low on somebody like a Garrett Crochet, or an injured pitcher, that might not come back or might not be good. So realistically, who you could get maybe for Elaine Thomas, maybe like a Brandon Pfaadt type of player. I know that's nothing too exciting, but realistically, maybe an Eric Fetty who's been okay, but not great since he's been with the Cardinals, I still like Brian Wu, and I know a lot of people are scared of him because he's been hurt so much, but I would take on that risk for sure. So maybe somebody like that might be my top target.
All right, there you go. Good luck, Victor. Dwayne Wade, fresh off calling the USA gold medal game.
Nice, my favorite player ever.
Oh wow! All right, here we go. Well, you got to help him out here.
My jersey, I got my D Wade jersey on.
He's sick of Zach Gallen, who actually pitched well on Saturday, but he left the game early with cramping. Now they're saying he shouldn't miss his next start. So are we talking him off the ledge here and saying don't drop him, or are we letting him drop him?
Yeah, I'll come off the ledge here. And yeah, Gallen was on last week's panic because obviously he's had a rough patch, but it's not going to be his best season, right? For whatever reason, he just hasn't been quite himself to what he's been the last couple of years. But he hasn't been as bad as most pitchers out there. I mean, in other words, he's still one of the better options. So I know it's frustrating, but again, what are your other options? Are you really wanting to drop Gallen so that way you have guys like Andrew Abbott,
Paul Blackburn for 2 starts?
Huh?
Paul Blackburn for 2 starts?
Yeah, but if you drop Gallen, someone picks him up almost surely, right? Someone will pick him up. Are you really willing to risk, rest of the season that a guy like Blackburn is going to be better rest of the season? He might be. I mean, that's definitely possible, but I wouldn't drop him. Again, you can bench. You're totally fine rage benching a player when he's underperforming, but I would not drop him unless you're like in an 8-team league.
All right. I know this one makes you feel good. He's finally back tonight. Julio Rodriguez in the lineup tonight. Give us your expectations. What are we getting from Julio tonight?
It should make me feel good. I'm not sure if it does though. It makes me nervous. I haven't put him back in my starting lineup yet. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait till tomorrow.
What do you think?
Lighting a candle, crossing my fingers and my toes, my shoelaces, and man, this is it, right? This is it. You had your rest, that injury. All right. You had time to clear your head and focus on the second half. This is it. This is a stretch run, Julio. This is time to show and prove that you weren't a wasted draft pick. And I can't say wasted. I mean, look, he's stolen like 18 bases. And he's got some power. Fine. But still, first round pick. One of the top picks in all of fantasy baseball. This is it. It's time to show and prove. So, yeah, starting tomorrow or tonight, just you put him in there and you just hope for the best.
Yes, definitely. All right, Victor with another one. Springs had a good outing today. He went 5 innings, 8 strikeouts. Looks like he gave up a run. So, are you a believer in Jeffrey Springs going forward?
I'm not a wholehearted believer because this isn't a player who really has an extended track record of success. Really, it was that 1 year where he was really, really good, and then he got hurt, and that's it. So I want to see more from him. Let's face it. Today, I mean, yeah, I was really hesitant about him this week because Baltimore was, on the schedule. But let's be cautiously optimistic. Put it that way. I still don't think he's a must hold, if you need to move on. But yeah, let's wait and see.
All right. And then Tom has a question. Thoughts on Shane Baz or JP Sears being pitchers worth holding? Now, I did pick up JP Sears for 2 starts this week. And all he did was go 7 innings both times. Got 2 quality starts. Struck out 9 batters. He's now gone 7 innings in 3 straight games. And he's like 0 ERA, 1.29 ERA, 3.86 ERA. Now I can't drop him. Now I'm like, I don't think I can drop him. So what do we do here?
Sears was maybe not the first, he was one of the top 2 start streaming options last week, right? And I remember because we even got that comment. Someone's like, "Is this what we've come to? We're talking about Oakland A's pitchers." Hey, if you had Sears, like if you picked him up like Chris did, you are ecstatic. Joey Estes had a really good start, if I remember. This is the time for teams to surprise us, right? These teams that we've forgotten and think, yeah, they're never going to win again. It still happens. Bad teams will beat good teams sometimes. Pitchers that you didn't even think about in fantasy will all of a sudden come out of nowhere and be good. JP Sears, I think you got to hold on to him for now. All right. Now, I do think that Baz, I'm going to continue to give him a little bit longer of a leash because we know the talent is there. So I think to some extent they're both worth holding on to. I don't know if you're asking straight up, like which one would I hold on to, just in general or each. I think for the most part, 12-team leagues deeper, both do have value. I guess if you really need to pick one for this week, it should be Sears.
Yeah, my plan was to pick him up, stream him twice, and drop him, and now I'm like, I don't think I can drop him. I think I have to hold him for another week and see what he does. All right, this one. Months ago, this felt like a laugh. And in fact, we made a trade, a very similar trade to this. In fact, this exact trade, except I also got Josh Lowe, who I've now dropped. So basically, we traded Julio for Jazz. Now, at the time, nobody knew Julio would get hurt, and nobody knew Jazz would go to the Yankees. But Julio is back. Jazz is a Yankee. It's a points league. You got to pick one rest of the season. Are you banking on Julio turning around, or are you just taking Jazz, who's hitting 300 with 7 home runs, 12 runs, 11 RBIs, and 3 stolen bases since joining the Yankees?
So the key thing is we have to point out it's a points league, right? And so in that case, it's funny because a lot of people would immediately think, well, in a points league, Jazz, he does strike out a lot and whatever. Go look at Julio's plate discipline, the K- BB rate between the two of them. There is no difference really this season. Now that he's a Yankee, I think we got to go Jazz. Now,
I
I will
mean,
say Julio probably has more upside if he goes in a crazy tear like last year. But I mean, look, at this point, if you say I'm picking Julio, it's because you're not looking at the here and the now. You're thinking back to last year. You're thinking back to where you drafted him. You're thinking backwards, and that's not a winning formula.
yeah, I mean, Jazz has been a different guy since getting into New York.
It's amazing. It's almost like leaving the Marlins and going to a real team. It's like motivating. It's weird. Like that's never happened before.
And he's got that little league fence out there in left field. Ah, it's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing.
You're loving it.
All right, Chris Pauly, what is up? Wants to know, is Zach DeCenzo worth an ad?
Yeah, good question. And we actually got a question on this in the Discord. Benny was asking about him. I don't think Benny's on here, but maybe worth an ad. I don't feel super confident he'll be a regular in the lineup the rest of the way. Worth an ad, it really depends on the format. All right, depends how deep your league is. So I think you could consider him in the short term. But again, I don't know if this is going to be someone who you can set and forget the rest of the way. So I think you could stream him if you need him, but that's really more of a deep league ad.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Dwayne Wade's got another one. Is DeGrom worth a hold? So he's scheduled to face hitters again early next week in another live batting practice session. And Bruce Bochy said he's ready to make a couple minor league starts at some point later this month, but there isn't a firm timetable yet for when he'll make his season debut. Are you holding him?
Yeah, well, worth it if it's not costing you a valuable roster spot. I mean, if he's on your IL spot and you're not having to drop a good player for him, sure, why not? This is one of those holds that as long as you are realistic about what to expect from him, it's okay, because don't expect him to go out there and deal for 6 innings and, pile up wins for you, because he's very likely to be on a very hard pitch count when he first comes back. And I mean like 3 innings, maybe 4 innings, if you're lucky 5. So only worth a hold if you're realistic about what you're going to get out of him. So he could be helpful. Obviously, he can pile up some strikeouts for you, but I don't think you should expect that he's going to be a mainstay in your rotation rest of the year. And don't expect to see him until September.
All right, there you go. Thank you, Dwayne. All right, Logan Martinez getting some more fatigue vibes out of Luis Gil's last start. Eric Fetty, Robbie Ray, Shane Baz, Jake Irvin, Nestor Cortez all got dropped recently.
Wow.
Would you drop Gil for any of those guys?
And your league is either smaller or you got a lot of people who are very impatient. Most of these pitchers are rostered in a lot of leagues. Okay. I know what you're saying with Gil, but remember, we've seen this where he had that downturn and then all of a sudden he's dominant again. I wouldn't give up on Gil right now for those players. Cortez, you can leave out there. With these options, I can ignore Baz and Irvin. I'm tempted to pick up Robbie Ray, but I would say for now, let's hold off on Gil. I don't remember offhand who he's lined up to face next. So let me see if I can find out real quick. But I don't want to drop Gil as my short answer just now. Oh, no. Okay. You got to keep him. He's going against the White Sox next.
Yeah.
You got to keep him. And then after that, maybe Detroit. So there you go. There's your answer. If you have to drop him for any reason, though, I would definitely keep an eye on Ray.
All right. And then Luis Correa has another one. Merrill Kelly is available in his league. Can he drop Taj Bradley or Brian Wu to pick him up?
Merrill Kelly, someone you want to consider, but I'm not dropping those two. I really like both of those young pitchers. Brian Wu, as long as he's healthy, really good. So far, so good. Knock on wood. And Taj has just been mean, he's been lights out, really. So, yeah, I think you can add Merrill Kelly, but I'm not dropping those pitchers.
All right. See if you can find somebody else to drop. And then let's give Uncle Ted a shout out. What's up, Uncle Ted? Alex Call is a must add. He does, in fact, have 6 straight multi-hit games over the last week, batting .414 with 4 runs, 5 RBIs, and a stolen base. No power. Are you adding Alex Call?
Yeah, I think you're right on there. And by the way, shout out Uncle Ted, not just always on the baseball stream and the football stream. He's a multi-sport, fantasy sport athlete, like we are. He gets into those deeper players. He knows the prospects. He was talking about Bly Madras of the Tigers a few weeks ago. So he's definitely looking for those deep league values. Yeah. Hey, Call has been not just hitting, but he is, as far as I remember, he's hitting like second in the order a lot of times. He does have some speed. Washington runs a ton. So yeah, this is someone I think I'm going to have to mention on this week's waiver wire because he's getting that consistent playing time. Yeah, I'll buy into him.
All right. Good call there, Uncle Ted. And it looks like we are now all caught up, coming up to the top of the hour anyways. So unless you have some last minute questions here, we'll get you ready for the week ahead. Don't forget, there's still time. You got about 5 minutes to try to get your underdog pick'ems in. If you want to jump on the Seattle, maybe go put a pick'em down on Julio Rodriguez. If you think he's going to have a good night, go put a pick'em on him. And if you haven't tried underdog yet, sign up. Make sure you use promo code ENDGAME because you'll get a free pick'em you can use right away, plus up to $250 in bonus cash. And of course, we are going to go do an underdog fantasy football draft. So even if you don't want to do a pick'em tonight, you might want to start drafting some fantasy football teams on there. Super Dave, actually, we got a question here from Super Dave, always on here. Is it okay that I dropped Seawald and Springs for Finnegan and Martinez?
Oh, absolutely. Finnegan is just out there. That's interesting. Yeah, definitely okay. You're getting, pitchers who are getting you saves right now. And like I said, Springs look better, but I don't think he's someone you have to hold on to. It's not like he ever has the highest of ceilings. And again, this is a different Tampa Bay team than it was 2 years ago when he was having his season. So absolutely okay that you did that. Someone dropped my... I love when they're like, yeah, he's been too good this year. Let's just get him off my team. Just drop him. Just drop him.
All right, then we get one from William Collins here under the gun. Casas is finally coming back.
Finally.
So which two? Apparently Casas is so good he's got to drop 2 of these guys. Nathaniel Lowe, Juan Yepez, or Heimer Candelario.
For Casas, you can drop any or all of them. Candelario seems droppable again. He had his little hot streak, but Reds have been terrible. Yepez, I think he's finally cooled off. Has he finally cooled off? I don't feel like he's somebody you need to keep. He's still getting hits, but really not showing too much power. Lowe, honestly, I can't even remember the last time I thought about Nate Lowe because I just feel like he's been there. Like, he's okay. He's there. I definitely would rather have Casas. You know what? Let's do this. Let's drop Lowe and Candelario and then keep Yepez while he hits. But you're not going to start any of these guys really anyways.
All right, we got another one from Luis. Thoughts on Brandon Lowe from Tampa Bay? I have been very happy that I picked up Brandon Lowe. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, which is funny. Lowe, I can't ever remember. It's Nate Lowe, Brandon Lowe, and Josh Lowe, but one of them is Lau and not Lowe, and I don't ever remember which one it is, and I don't think it matters. But why would it be different? Anyways, yeah. Do you still have him? You've been playing with it.
Oh yeah,
playing him for a while,
I play him pretty much every day. He's got because it's the thing about Brandon Lowe or Lau or however you pronounce his name. I mean, you look at the last 2 weeks since he's been back. Okay, he's only batting .255, but he's got 2 home runs, 6 runs, 9 RBIs, 2 steals. He's got power, right? He's got 14 home runs and only 234 at bats this year. He had 21 home runs and only 377 at bats last year. He's got elite power at second base. So it's either him or Cronenworth. So if Lowe's in the lineup, I just play him and hope for a home run. But he's giving me in other categories as well.
Okay, so it's Brandon. That's what I thought. I think this is the Lau. Anyways, thank you, Super Dave.
Okay, Brandon
Lau. He's another one of those players that you always wonder what could have been the last couple of years. He's had back issues. That is something that lingers, is something that saps the player of his strength, his power, especially a power hitter. Yeah, I mean, I still remember, I hate to go back to, I remember 4 years ago, he was really good. But again, it's just those injuries that have kept him out. He's been legit this year since he's been healthy. So yeah, definitely somebody worth keeping in your lineup. He'll sit against lefties sometimes, and of course he'll have his offers, but that goes for most players. But yeah, I like Lau.
All right, and then we did talk a little bit about Tyler Mahle, but Tom Solo wants to know, is he any good? Had a decent first start.
Yeah, so Tom and anybody who's just getting on here at the last second or, watches back, very beginning, top 2 start streamers of this coming week. Mahle made the cut, but he's lower on the list just because the schedule is pretty tough. He's got a road game in Fenway Park, not a great venue, but also then he gets Minnesota, which, they've been putting up runs in bunches at times. So Mahle is good. He's pretty solid, more of a floor than a ceiling kind of a pitcher here, but he can get you strikeouts, and he looked pretty good in his first game back. So I think he's more of a solid hold for the rest of the season as opposed to a streamer this week. But yeah, worth keeping an eye on. I'd rather just see how he does this next game as opposed to starting him in my lineup this first game. But yeah, worth it.
All right. And then Alberto asking about one of your Marlins pitchers, Edward Cabrera, finally had a nice outing. 7 innings pitched, 4 strikeouts, no earned runs against the Padres. Are you trusting him this week against the Mets?
No, trust is, you lost me at trust.
Are you gambling on him this week against the Mets?
No. I'd rather go somebody who has a floor, because just as Cabrera can look good at times, he could also walk 6 batters. And it's too much risk too late in the season. So this is either a desperation streamer or maybe a DFS gamble. That's about it.
All right. We are now officially caught up for the 3rd time this afternoon. And we are going to get going for that underdog draft. If you guys do want to come try to draft with us or just check it out, if you're getting into the fantasy football season, check us out on the other channel, Fantasy Endgame. You'll find us here on YouTube. We're going to stream an underdog draft. I think we're just going to be on Sundays now, right? Is that the plan going forward? Just Sundays from here on out?
Yeah, looks like we're just going to stick to Sundays because I know a lot of trade deadlines are ending this week. Some teams are already in the playoffs, and I hate to say it, no, not everybody here plays fantasy football, but football season is from full swing, draft season, so we're going to be busy on that other channel, which, by the way, anybody here who is still on, if you are a fantasy football player or just interested, hey, maybe this is your chance to get hooked on another fantasy sport. We're about to do an underdog draft over there. You can check it out. Hey, maybe you don't want the commitment. Maybe you're like, I don't want to do the lineups and the what. You know what you can do in underdog? You draft a team, and that's it. And you let it ride. You check back at the end of the year, and you see how you did. So it's the fun of drafting without the aggravation of anything else. So,
yes.
Anyways, something to consider.
Definitely. And don't forget, tomorrow we got the panic video. We got Beat the Breakout, waiver wire coming out this week. And, of course, we will be back here on Sunday to wrap up the week and get you ready for the next week ahead. Appreciate you guys being here, chatting with us. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next time.